I'm a serious guy. So serious, in fact, that I took a whole train back to my university just for this hat. So you can imagine how my serious ass at work, getting the notification that the very serious Juniper Dev game jam was starting, made me feel, for fuck's sake, I was thrilled. In all seriousness, it kinda caught me by surprise. I went into this off of the tail end of another game jam, one my team didn't actually submit anything for. Kind of a bummer, but then Juniper Dev decided to pull some divine intervention shit, giving me a second chance. Thus, over the next 7 days, I would spend probably more time in Unity than I did over my course this year, I can't even lie. And I'm not even joking either. I took this shit everywhere, okay? I was coding on the train. I was coding at work. I was coding behind the register at work. I'm a serious guy. In this video, I want to go over my submission for the game jam and how I actually made it, and hopefully by the end have a complete game. So getting home from work that day, I started to brainstorm ideas for the jam a little bit. The theme was spin to win, and I knew I wanted to make a platformer. A, because they're easy to make, and B, I only have 7 days for this, and I kind of want to focus on polish and having a complete product out. Well, 7 days in a 24-hour extension, but I'm not going to be using that. As well as the theme, the games would be rated based on these different categories. The two which I wanted to lean more into were creativity and theme use and visuals. Oh, and of course seriousness, can't forget about that. My process for coming up with a name for something usually ends up being searching up Latin translations for the words on Google, which turns out spin has a lot of. But what caught my eye? Torqueo, which according to this Wiktionary article I found has these definitions. Now, the first two make sense to, you know, spin something, twirl, whatever. These last two, however, to hurl violently, twirl, fling. And number 4, to torment, torture. So, platformer, fling, torment, and torture. I think I smell a rage game.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Having a genre now, I wrote down an overview for my idea, which I think is all of the notes I kind of wrote down before starting development. Torqueo. Rage game where you play as something that goes through environments with a lot of spinning level elements, pretty much. Those level elements? Fans. But what kind of structure has enough fans to justify a whole platformer based around them? Farm silos. Well, no, but 1 to 4 fans is close enough to the amount in my game. Okay, so gameplay and setting down. Here's a basic overview of the game finally. You play as the aptly named farmer Torqueo, tasked by his boss to retrieve the last stash of hay from the top of a decrepit silo. The only way to get around this place is by flinging yourself up through different rooms using the silo fans, whilst trying to avoid falling and losing all your progress. If people don't like it, I'll just say it's a 40 in game or some shit. I started out by creating a very simple tile set for the environment. You'll be seeing a lot of greys and blacks in this video. I thought it'd be smart to make the fans first, seeing as that was like half of my gameplay. This was simple enough. A parent object acts as a pivot point, and it has 3 surrounding child objects for the blades. Each blade contains another child, grab point, which serves as the position that the player will track when grabbing onto any of the fan blades. Next, making the player. When colliding with a fan blade, I want the player to attach to that blade and be able to launch themselves from the direction that the blade is facing. First came the obvious things. Detecting a fan collision using a new tag, grab blade, and then using that in some on-trigger enter methods, and then setting the player's position to match the grab point, which was easy enough to do using transform.getChild. However, when it came to the jump, I tried to overcomplicate things. My original idea was to add a force on jumping using the player's normalized velocity, thinking it accurately reflected the direction that I wanted the player to go. Obviously it didn't. So then I started worrying that I'd need to work out some fucking perpendicular normal formula, you know, for the grab point of the blade. This wasn't really far from the truth, but I was like overcomplicating things so much because it turns out that the perpendicular normal that I wanted was just the right facing vector of the grab point. You know, grab point.right. Fucking dumbass, bro, I swear to God. Alright, so using the new input system, I binded this jump action, which sets a velocity using grab point.right, then launches the player using that velocity and a variable launch force, provided that the grab point isn't a null reference and the boolean can jump is true. So now the player can't infinitely jump. I was pretty proud of my progress thus far, so I wanted to post a little demo video to the Juniper Discord, but they don't let anyone under level 5 post there, and I'm still just a measly sprout. Now, I'm not proud of it, but I really wanted to post something, so I found sort of a loophole. They allow you to post GIFs into the Discord no matter what level you are, so I literally just recorded my gameplay and turned it into a GIF and posted it anyways. Whilst doing that, I looked at some other projects being made, and I can't lie, Evil Balatro was definitely one I was looking forward to playing the most. Now, some of you may be wondering right now, How is the theme I've picked for my game serious? Well, I'll have you know, there is nothing more serious than being put onto some bullshit task at the end of your shift, like our boy Torqueo here, who's gotta climb a fucking farm silo, but only using the fans? I'm getting angry for him, and I'm making him do this. Speaking of Torqueo, I actually gotta make him. After searching up Big Farmer Guy for inspiration, yeah, I'm not a good designer or artist in case you couldn't tell already, I settled on this dude, Robert Earl Hughes, who was at one point the heaviest human on record. I mean, he seems pretty chill, so, welcome to the team, Robert.
Hey, chill, bro.
This was my final character design, and honestly, I like him a lot. He's a chill big farmer. I think Robert will be proud. So after adding in the sprites, I made a level start kind of state, so at the start of the game you can actually jump up to reach the fan. Had to make some minor tweaks to the jump method for this, incorporating an else statement that uses a public game manager reference to detect the start of the level. With this, I could also add a way for the player to die from the one bottomless pit in the entire game. Just a simple method that resets all the relevant variables to trigger restarting the level. It was at this point I also added different rooms with different cameras in them, so I could have a nice transition when, you know, going between different rooms, using Cinemachine of course. I picked the linear blend and I made it quite fast so it felt kind of snappy and fast paced. I did like it, but in hindsight I'd probably change it. We'll come back to this point later. Finally, I added some background tiles just to fill out the empty space a bit more. It's looking like a game now. I added some more background tiles on day 5, so there's at least like one more color to look at. Rust. Didn't really make anything gameplay wise, but I finished designing the second room, which I added the first of a few not so fair, but bottom having pits. Yes, I know. Thank you. Oh, and of course, work started on the third room, which don't even know why I put that in the commit. I was lacking hard in progress this day. I spent too much time in Photopea making sprites, so I had to stay up a bit late, but I managed to get a title screen implemented. Again, nothing insane, but I always loved interactive title screens that use in-game prefabs and stuff, so I tried to make something similar, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. Logo's kind of fire too, low-key. You sure you're not an artist? Damn, alright then. Okay, so I missed a day of working on this due to some plans I had made, and I definitely wouldn't have been able to considering the state I was in, so I just had to pray that I'd do everything I needed to in the 5 hours I had after work. I quickly made a priority list. I needed a finished level, so about 2 more rooms at least, a way to restart the level, and an ending to the game at the very least. Starting with the easiest task, I decided I would just make a whole pause menu with like a restart button included, so I kind of just knocked out 2 in 1 there. The restart button itself calls a restart function from the player controller, and oh shit, would you look at that? The Daiko routine again. I knew making that wouldn't be useless. Next, I added this fade transition effect between scenes. This was a very basic implementation, though done using a canvas image with an animator that just changed the opacity. Very spaghetti coded, as you can tell. Now, this was all going great until I ran into, I think, what is the weirdest and dumbest bug I've ever encountered in Unity. Though technically it's not really a bug, and it's just how the UI and canvas elements sort of work with each other. All of a sudden, after implementing the fade transition, every single button in the game stopped working. Not even that they were being pressed and not doing anything. No, these buttons just straight up forgot that they were buttons. The solution ended up being so simple as well. It was literally just where the fade object was being placed as a child on the canvas that was the problem. You probably already know this, but with Unity's canvas, all the UI elements are on a layer that is determined by where it's placed as a child of the canvas, with the topmost layer being at the back and the bottom being at the front. Because my fade object was placed at the front, with the raycast target setting being on, it turned into the only clickable UI element, so like none of the buttons just worked. Really easy fix though, again, you know, just like turn off the raycast setting or just like move it up. Well, if it's such a simple bug, why are you still talking about it? Because I cannot lie, this shit made me see red. I had managed to get caught up spending too much time on one bug, and it was a simple UI fix at that. No matter though, I still have a good few hours to finish the level at least. I had to be up at 6:30 the next day, man, and honestly, in my jet-lagged state, I thought we were already in the extension, I can't even lie. Thankfully though, I managed to make an itch page and submit it before the day was over so that I could still edit it. So as I readied my unfinished build to be submitted, and felt my life fraying away before my very eyes, I wondered if I really achieved what I set out to do for this jam. Wondered, was it all worth it? Was my game even going to be given a chance with how broken the final release was? None of it mattered. Torqueo would forever just be another great idea of mine lost to the dunes of itch.io. is what I would be saying if I didn't check the Discord the next morning. Genuinely, I know I'm kind of a dumbass for getting the dates wrong, but again, it feels like some divine intervention shit from Juniper Dove herself. Many blessings. Okay, so the reason I couldn't finish the main level because I was really struggling to keep the gameplay interesting with the only two mechanics I had in the game being spinning fans and jumping. So the easiest way I found to add a bit of variety to the gameplay was to just add some moving platforms. I mean, I could have added spinning platforms, but I feel like people would dox me over how bullshit that mechanic is. Now with some variety, I got to work on building the last 3 rooms. In the 3rd room, I made sure to include a good amount of options for failure, with the 3rd one being the most unforgiving, just sending you straight back to the start. The 4th room, I decided to just go crazy with my funny new moving platforms, and I didn't really have time to decorate it. And finally, the 5th room. I initially wanted to do something really ridiculous that could also have you like fall all the way back to the start, but I decided against it. Instead, the last room would just be some respite from the madness of this dumbass task, and where you would find that precious stash of hay. When the player finally reaches the top, the ending screen plays until KO is free from the horrors of that silo. He's also probably going to quit his job. I mean, that face just screams resignation notice, right? With the game finally finished, I submitted the final build to itch.io ready for ratings, and even though I had to use the extension to get everything in, I'd done it. This was my first solo game jam project, and I'm just so happy that I managed to get a complete game out within the time I was given. Well, apart from audio and enjoyment, maybe? Speaking of that, the feedback I received generally was pretty positive, which I wasn't expecting, to be honest. There was a criticism with the camera movement though. Going back to that point I mentioned earlier, I like the way that the camera snaps between the rooms. However, it was pointed out by somebody that the constantly moving camera between jumps was a bit demotivating, which removed a lot of the desire to climb back up. In hindsight, I felt like this was a pretty obvious blunder, and I should probably opt it out for just a simple camera cut between the rooms, like rage games typically would do. Regardless of the kind of feedback that I received, I'm so grateful for it, and just grateful for anybody who decided to play the game or comment anything about it. This is sort of my first project I've ever released publicly for an event like this, so the fact that anybody took the time to play the game is really amazing. I cannot stress how grateful enough I am for that. Really should have done a web build though. Thank you so much for watching, and you may notice that this is my first video, so let me tell you a bit more about myself. My name's Eric, and this is my channel FrankenQ. I wanted this channel so I could have a place to make more devlog type videos about my projects, but you can expect to see a couple of off-topic videos from time to time. In later videos, I'll probably go into more detail about my process for coding, but this was a 7-day game jam. It really wasn't anything impressive, so I decided that it would probably just be a waste of time going into that much detail. I hope to improve on all fronts as I continue making projects though. Art, design, coding as well, that's mainly what I do. In fact, I do have a few more ideas in the works, so expect to hear from me soon. Well, soon with a grain of salt. As a Ghanaian, I can confirm we do run on Ghana Maybe Time. See you next year.